Hello there everybody, this is Speckblocklime here with another video reaction for all of you today. And the video we're going to do is from the channel MrBallen. And the video is titled Family Terrorized by a Stalker. True Story of the Watcher. Now actually I have heard about this thing before because I think I might have seen it on a different channel a long time ago. Not this one. Of these guys that did mystery or something. I don't remember all the details because I do have retained some memories of certain things, not everything. The only reason I don't want to say anything right now is because there's a chance I will get the information wrong, and I don't want to like confuse myself. And then when I'm watching the video, be like, oh no, wait, it was like that, it was like that. But it will, if I do remember something, I'll probably mention it in the video. It refresh like my memory. But yeah, I want to see what they're gonna say in their version, MrBallen. So let's hope. We'll see. Maybe something interesting. We'll see how it goes. But anyways, let's get on to the video. Here we go.
What's going on, guys? MrBallen here, former Navy SEAL turned internet storyteller with a focus on the strange, dark, and mysterious. And speaking of mysterious,
and in case anyone is going to
today,
complain
I have a mystery
or question, if you want to watch the original,
mysteries.
I know I said complain, it sounds a little harsh, but I'm not trying to say it like that.
A couple of years following that,
you want to watch the original and not hear my annoying voice, if that's how anyone says it, over it, please watch it on the original channel over there. It'll be helping them, and you'll get to enjoy it without having any interruptions of hearing someone talk over something. Maybe I don't mention something that's being talked about.
All-American family that
so in case anyone's out there, go watch it over there. So I want to say that quick message.
Start receiving these awful, wrathful, threatening letters from some anonymous person or group. The letters get progressively.
Oh yeah, okay. So I remember this part. I think this is the one where some people, a family moves into a house, and supposedly they get these letters.
To see things that
supposedly someone is, like, cause like the title says, is watching them, and they call themselves, I think, the Watcher. That's the main part that I know is correct.
I think that the best way to watch this video,
I don't remember all the other details that hard.
Really appreciate what this family went through is to.
I think they're even. I think even recently, I think a series came out. I don't remember.
That's the family that purchases the house. Imagine you're in their position. Would you have stayed, or would you have left? And I'd love to hear about it in the comments section. So, let's dive in. In June of 2014, Derek and Maria Broaddus purchased their dream home.
That's a hard question, you know. Would you move or would you stay?
House in Westfield, New Jersey, which is a very affluent northern.
But it's just a little like messed up because I wonder why this person just messed with this family. Did they mess with others? Because from what I think, some of the story might have said, I don't think anyone else in the neighborhood got letters.
You lived on Boulevard, you had made it. I would say that times have changed because now Boulevard is remembered as the place where this case happened. So I would say it's probably not the best place to live anymore. But at the time, it was like Derek and Maria were living their dreams and they knew it. 3 days after the sale of the house, they hadn't moved in yet. Derek had gone to the house to do some painting of the walls and some simple house renovations. I think he was just so excited about this house. He just wanted to go over and just kind of be in the space. So his wife and his kids are back at their old house that they had sold but hadn't moved out of yet. And so he's at the new house and he's doing these simple renovations and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna.
Yeah, but that's just an example that you should really look up of the area and the place you're gonna live at before you buy something permanent. Renting is one thing, but buying, there's a lot of things that go to. Not just creepy stuff, but just stuff that you never know could be wrong with the house or the area.
Dearest new neighbor at 657
just a little bit of advice.
Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood. 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched in the 1960s. It is now my time. Do you know the history of the house? Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard? Why are you here? I'll find out.
The letter goes on to
what is that about? Like,
kind of car they were driving. It was
either this person just is crazy because they're insinuating that not only they are
around
doing
the
this
house
weird
for
thing
the past couple of days.
that their
looking for
dad
random
did it
faces
and their
in the house.
grandfather did it.
It even said that, I believe I've counted that you have 3 children. Someday I will learn their names and I will call to them and I will take them from you. You know, it's like this. It's like a reconnaissance of his
And
family
that's
had already
also
begun
terrible.
as soon as they moved in. And so Derek is reading through this letter and he's realizing that whoever is sending this, this is not a friendly neighbor at this point. This is someone who is out to harm them in some way. So he takes the letter, he runs back into the house, shuts all the windows, locks all the doors, leaves the house and goes right back to his wife and his kids that are at their old home. And they promptly call the police. Police show up, they read the letter, and they're like, what is this? Do you have enemies? Who wrote you this? Because even the language inside the letter was like, it was not quite Old English, but close. It was like this bizarre writing, and it was just very stalkerish and awful, and the police just don't really know what to make of it. And Derek and Maria are obviously very upset. They haven't even moved into the house yet, but this is a big cause for concern. So the letter did not have a return address, but at the end of the letter it just said,
"Who am I? I could be someone that's walking by your house every day. I could be someone driving by your house every day. I could be one of your neighbors. I could be anybody that you see at any given day, and you'll never know."
And then it just says, signed, the Watcher. After the police leave that night and promise to launch their own investigation, Derek and Maria, they're totally on edge, and so they write an email, even though it's super late, to the Woods family. They're the family that sold the house to Derek and Maria. And they say, hey, we just got this strange threatening letter. Have you received anything like this? Because the Watcher claims to have been watching you for the entire time you were there. And the Woods family writes back and they say, 3 days, I think it was 3 days before we actually left the house, we did receive a letter. It wasn't threatening. It was just thanking us for our time in the house and treating it with respect, and that it would be taken care of going forward, and that this person would look after the house for us, and it was signed the Watcher. But to be honest, we didn't think much of it. We crumpled it up and threw it away. So the Broadduses decide that they are not going to rush to actually move into the new house. They had thought about doing it, but they decide with this letter that maybe it's best to hold off a little bit. And so Derek and Maria would do day trips with the kids. They'd go do a day trip, do some renovations, make sure that the contractors that were there were doing a good job getting the house in order, and then they would come back to the house that they were still living in. About 2 weeks after that letter was found, Maria is there with the kids, and she gets to the new house and she sees there's a letter from the Watcher, the same envelope, same writing on the outside, and so she immediately calls the police even before she reads it. She opens it up and it says,
"Welcome again to your new home at 657 Boulevard. The workers have been busy and I have been watching you unload carfuls of your personal belongings. The dumpster is a nice touch. Have they found what's in the walls yet? In time, they will."
The Watcher goes on to identify each of their kids by nickname and by birth order, which implies that whoever this was close enough to Maria or to Derek when they were speaking directly to their kids using their nicknames that they overheard. Because it's one thing to know the children's full names, because it's possible that you could have looked it up online or something.
Yeah.
But to know their nicknames, that's
very intimate.
level of proximity that even though they knew the Watcher was probably in the neighborhood, almost definitely, this meant they were practically on top of one another.
Wow.
And it gets creepier. The Watcher also in this letter asks, about one of the children and says, is she going to be an artist? I saw her using her easel yesterday. Well, the easel that this girl had been using is in a back room of the house that is mostly obscured by trees and shrubbery. There's really only one vantage point where you could see this child. It would mean you're right on the property, like pretty much in plain view of anybody there. And with Maria and Derek and basically everyone on high alert looking for this person, it seems odd that they could be able to see this girl working at her easel in this kind of hidden back room and not be spotted. And then, of course, to kind of seal the deal, making this letter just totally terrifying, they go on to say,
"Do your kids go in the basement? I'd be afraid if I were them. It's far away from the rest of the house, and if you were upstairs, you would never hear them scream. Who has the bedrooms facing the street? I'll know as soon as you move in. Then I can plan better.
So at this point, Derek and Maria are in full crisis mode, because it's one thing to be watched, which is bad. It's another when
I'm sure there's other kids in the neighborhood, and why is this person picking on this
it's a bad situation.
house
so
for these people? It just doesn't make sense.
They don't know if they're even ever going to move into this new house. It felt unsafe. And so for a few weeks, they're kind of teetering on whether it's worth moving in or not, and so that they aren't there. They're not going to the new house at all. And a third letter arrives basically saying, "Where are you? The house misses you," obviously from the watcher. At one point between the first letter and third letter, Derek was speaking with John Schmidt, who lived 2 doors down from their new property on Boulevard. And John was saying that Derek ought to look into the Langfords. It was a family that lived right next to their new house. Kind of a little bit of a strange family. It was a 90-something-year-old mother and her adult children who lived with her, who were all in their 60s. And one of the children, Michael, he was just known in the area of being a little bit odd. Like he would just kind of creep out other people. It wasn't uncommon to have him like walk across people's property, like little things like that, like looking in windows, just giving the vibe that he was a little bit strange and people didn't really like being around him. So Derek brings it up to the police that, hey, you should look into Michael Langford. He lives right near us. Neighbors are saying he's a little bit off. The police were like, actually, he was the first person we talked to. We brought him in, we questioned him, he denied it, we have no evidence tying him to it, and we just don't think it's him. And then later on in the investigation, they would actually do a DNA sample from one of the letters, and they would find out that it was a woman's DNA. And so that effectively ruled out Michael Langford, but the Langfords had a daughter. And so they decided maybe it could be her. And so they actually got a water bottle from her that they found, and they tested that, and it wasn't a match. So the Langfords were ruled out. Derek is growing increasingly more paranoid and angry. He went from being, scared of what was potentially going to happen to feeling like, how dare you?
Confusion,
and he started telling the police, like, if you don't find who's doing this, I'm going to figure out who it is. And then you're not going to be dealing with a stalking case. You're going to be dealing with a different kind of case, if you catch my drift. And so the police were like, don't do anything crazy. We're working as hard as we can. It's just there's not much to go on here.
Yeah,
Derek wasn't
terrible.
okay with that. He set up this elaborate camera system in and around his house, the new house. He started staying at the new house, turning off all the lights and crouching behind windows and staring at the mailbox in hopes of being able to confront anybody who went near it. He ended up hiring 2 former FBI agents to launch his own private investigation. He hired a handwriting expert to analyze the letters themselves to see if they could pick up details about who this was and potentially profile them.
Okay,
This person, all they could conclude was it was someone who was really, really mad. But all those things really didn't lead to any results. It was just Derek had
all that investment, and then
he was willing to basically do anything to find out who the heck was writing these letters. So at this point, the Broadduses had already sold their old house. They were still living in it because they hadn't moved into the new house, the house being watched. But at some point, the new owners of the house they sold were ready to move in. And so the Broadduses had to move in with Maria's family, but were still paying the mortgage on 657 Boulevard. At this point, the community started kind of spreading rumors about the Broaddus family. People believed that the reason they weren't moving into this beautiful new home was, they were getting a divorce, or they had some legal problems. The letters.
This is something terrible about neighborhoods sometimes, with just houses. Things like that happen. When you live in an apartment building within a city or something, none of that stuff happens. You talk to your neighbors, but nobody starts talking crazy.
Decided that they're just going to sell this house.
In this neighborhood, you're like,
because they need the money. They've tied up a lot of money in it, and they feel like, we'll sell the house and we'll move on. But by the time they listed it, enough rumors were circulating about the weirdness around that house and why no one was moving into it, and the weirdness with Derek and Maria, that nobody wanted to buy. And so they initially list this property above what they paid because they had put $100,000 into the house in renovations. They just kept doing renovations, and that was their way of justifying not moving in. They were like, we'll keep fixing it up. It'll be better once we move in. But, so they put 100K in and no one bid. They lower the price, no one bid. They continued to lower the price to where it was like a full-blown deficit.
Understandable.
Still, no one made an offer. So it sat vacant. At this point, Maria and Derek turned their frustration towards the previous owners. Because as I mentioned earlier, they had received a letter from the Watcher. Granted, it was, at the very end of their stay in this house. But it was before they gave over the keys to the Broaddus family. And Derek and Maria felt like the fact that they got an anonymous letter that was literally signed the Watcher, that name alone was kind of ominous enough that they felt like the Woods family should have disclosed that to the Broaddus family before they moved in. And so they filed a legal complaint against the Woods family, basically saying that you held information that potentially would have kept us from moving in and not having this problem. Well, Derek and Maria were assured by their legal team that at most, a small legal newswire might pick up this lawsuit and that would be it. But the story, it got picked up by a number of outlets. The fact that they were filing a complaint against the previous owners over basically a stalker. And all of a sudden, they were all over the news. The Broaddus family had over 300 media requests. There were TV stations and news stations camped out on their front lawn. Everybody wanted to know what's going on with this bizarre, Watcher. It became this huge thing. And so for Derek and Maria and their family, they had to vacate Westfield because it was basically not only unsafe because they were being watched by this phantom menace, but now they couldn't escape the media pressure and all the speculation from their nosy neighbors. It was just a total train wreck. Finally, the Broaddus family got some good news, literally years after this first letter is sent and they tied up all their money in this new house. A family agrees to rent the house. Now,
that's the only solution I think you can come up. You could rent it.
Broaddus family,
you get money a little bit slowly by slowly back.
But to them, who've just been sitting on this worthless property that's just been, eating away at their finances, this was a huge win. The Broaddus family, they put into the contract with this new family that, hey, you know what's going on here with the Watcher. If you get another letter, you're able to renege on this contract. And so the new family moves in.
Yeah, that's nice enough,
2
though.
weeks into being there,
that's nice,
what
though.
do you think happens? Another letter shows up.
You wonder who the Watcher is. Turn around, idiots. Maybe you even spoke to me. One of the so-called neighbors who has no idea who the Watcher could be. Or maybe you do know and are too scared to tell anyone. My soldiers of the Boulevard followed my orders to a T. They carried out their mission and they saved the soul of 657 Boulevard with my orders. All hail the Watcher.
The renter
that part is just bull. Because you're just using an excuse that the media went in their way and all that. Oh yeah. You have that much power in a neighborhood to make everybody attack something.
They did that. They installed more cameras and they decided to stay. Derek and Maria are obviously disheartened, but at the same time, now they have more evidence against the Watcher. And so they take this new letter, they bring it to the police, and unfortunately, much like the other few letters they'd received, there was nothing much to go on.
Yeah.
You have this person claiming to watch them, but no hard evidence to tie it to anybody. So once again, they got nowhere. After renting this house out for a while to this family at a deficit, the Broaddus family in 2019 finally decide to just sell the house at a $400,000 deficit. It was just a huge nightmare, and at this point they were willing to pay $400,000 to get rid of it. Before they sold it, they received one more letter, and this is what it said.
You are despised by the house, and the Watcher won.
Despite the investigation by police and the unofficial investigation by Derek's private investigators, we are not anywhere closer to figuring out who the Watcher is, or what's hidden in the walls. It's all still a huge mystery. Many people have speculated that the Broaddus family, that Derek specifically, was probably the person who wrote the letters, because in fact, he would later admit that he wrote a number of anonymous letters to people in the community that had been bad-mouthing he and his family.
Yeah, there's that
Like
chance.
I said, it was purely out of frustration. I wanted to scare them and make them, feel what it was like to have the Watcher watching them. But he said, you know, like this whole situation is.
I mean, yeah, but it feels like it's too much, and you see how what they went through. I don't think so.
Their ability to stay in the town that they loved so much. So it just the angle that he stood to benefit from this. It's not a very good theory, in my opinion.
Yeah, because the person, the way that they acted was logical.
The rights to their story. But if Derek and his family had said, what we're going to do is we're going to set up this elaborate mystery around ourselves for years in order to secure movie rights, you'd be putting your kids through something so traumatic. So the idea of like
this is just no. They went through so much stuff with the police, investigators. I'm pretty sure they really wanted to fix this, but they just couldn't.
It remains to be seen who the Watcher is, but to this day, it remains a mystery. So
that's just terrible that all this stuff went down and they got not to enjoy that nice house that they wanted, and
really
just terrible.
A push to make YouTube my primary.
Sorry about that.
I hope you'll tag along. If you want to talk to me,
yeah, this is some of the story. I think the way that I saw the other video was longer and it explained a little extra, but yeah, in general, this is the story of this part of the video. But yeah, that was interesting. There's not much I can add. Like I said, just because one person ruined, and who knows if they. I'm not gonna take the threat lightly of what they said they were gonna do or not do, but it felt like they were just playing around. Maybe if they were lucky about what they were supposedly gonna do or say, and I'm like, this person just ruined. And that other letter, the one before the last one, that was dumb because they're talking like, oh, they convinced the people to attack them or whatever. Like, all you did was get lucky about a certain situation about what you were doing. You didn't really convince no one. I don't think you have that power that you're saying. I'm just saying, it just sucks. Terrible that they didn't get a chance to enjoy none of the house and the neighborhood they wanted. And I don't believe it. The stuff where they're saying, what's the word? That they made it up or they were doing it to get... No, there's too much to go through. Like, both of them would agree. Like, the wife and the husband and the kids didn't, like, complain. That's too much. I believe that they tried to do what they could. And they invested what they could to stop it. And it's just... They never found a solution. It's just terrible. Hopefully, wherever they went, they got a better plaything, you know. And hopefully whoever this was, they never mess with whoever this anymore, but it's just a little terrible. But anyway, that was an interesting video. I liked it. You want to check out the original, go to MrBallen's channel, and there's many more videos out there similar to this one or even more interesting. But I'm pretty sure all of them are interesting, so give those a watch. And hey, if you like it, come back here and check our channel and give this video a watch, and we have many others of varying variety. Reacting here to many videos of many things. This to funny things to just anything that interests me. In case anyone out there has asked why I react to certain videos, is because I find them interesting and I want to see what they're talking about or what it's about. You know, I want to hear people's stories, see creative ideas. You know, just I want to react to what I want to react to. You know, and that's just the all I'm gonna say. So. What's the word? I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is Speckblocklime. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification button to get notified about future videos. Hopefully you guys take care. Put links down below to everything here that we can in social media. Hopefully you guys take care of yourselves. You're okay. Maybe you ate something good, and have a good day.